Morning, children. Today we are doing Upon Westminster Bridge, written by William Wordsworth. So before we start the poem, we will read the poem and then we'll try to understand the poem line by line. Okay, but before we read the poem, first what I would like to tell you is that this poem, Upon Westminster Bridge, is written in a sonnet form. A sonnet form is a poem having 14 lines, one of 8 lines that is called the octave, and the next 6 lines that is called the sestet, and it is written in the Petrarchan style or the Italian style. Okay, now we will read the poem and then try to understand the poem, okay? Earth has not anything to show more fair. Dull would he be of soul who could pass by, a sight so touching in its majesty. This city now doth like a garment wear, the beauty of the morning silent bare. Ships, towers, domes, theatres, and temples lie, open unto the fields and to the sky, all bright and glittering in the smokeless air. Never did sun more beautifully steep in his splendor valley, rock or hill. Never saw I, never felt a calm so deep. The river glideth at his own sweet will. Dear God, the very houses seem asleep, and all that mighty heart is lying still. So you can see over here that the poet is describing a city. So which city is he describing? He is describing the city of London. We know that Wordsworth is from England, and he has a great attachment with this city called London. You all know where London is. So what does he describe about London? We know that William Wordsworth is a nature poet, so usually he writes something about nature. We've seen in our earlier classes where he wrote poems like The Solitary Reaper and The Daffodils, okay, where he describes the countryside and he describes nature. But here we see that the city also kinds of evokes such sentiments in him, such emotions in him, and he equates the city with nature. So what does he find so beautiful about this city? As we read in the title, the title itself is Upon Westminster Bridge. So he is crossing this bridge called Westminster Bridge, and from that bridge he can see London. So from there he is looking at the city and he finds it very beautiful. Why? What makes the city so beautiful? It is early in the morning, and as we know that the city of London is a very, very busy city where there is a lot of hustle and bustle and there's a lot of smoke. But here it is early in the morning, early dawn, just when the sun has risen, and he has described the city at this hour, the early morning hour. And he looks and he sees the city and he feels that he has not seen the city so beautiful. He has not, before also he used to cross the bridge and he used to look at the city, but at present, at this moment, the city seemed to be very beautiful. Why was the city looking so beautiful? Because it was early in the morning and it was very silent and it was very calm. Okay, so now we will try to understand the poem line by line, okay? Earth has not anything to show more fair. Dull would he be of soul who could pass by, a sight so touching in its majesty. So here the poet is telling us that he is looking at a sight, a scenery. And what kind of scenery? A majestic scenery, a grand scenery, all right? And he's trying to tell us that he has not seen anything more beautiful, more fair, more beautiful. Okay? And he's also telling us that if there is anyone, if there is a soul, we know that the soul is the base of a human being, from where he can actually perceive divinity. So, the sublime and the divine. Okay? So, he's telling us that if there is a soul who cannot appreciate this beauty, then he would be a very dull person, a listless person, a person without any emotion. So beautiful, right? Earth has not anything to show more fair. It's so beautiful that the poet has not seen anything more beautiful. And if any person cannot notice this, then he would be a very dull, a listless person. Okay? A person without any emotion. What kind of sight does he see? A sight so touching in its majesty, a grand scene. Okay? A very beautiful scene. Now, what is the scene now? We come to the next line. This city. So the scene is the city. He looks from the bridge, he can see the city, and it is very majestic. This city now doth like a garment wear, the beauty of the morning silent bear. So this city means, as I've already told you, that this city is the city of London. Okay, so the London city seems to be wearing a garment. Okay, what is a garment? Garment are the clothes that we wear. Okay, so what is it wearing? Is it wearing the clothes? No, it's not wearing the clothes. What is it wearing? Wear the beauty of the morning. What is it wearing? It is wearing the beauty of the morning, of the early morning, where the sun has just risen up and the rays of the sun are falling on the city and seems to envelop the city. The city seems to be covered by the first rays of the sunlight. So the beauty of the morning and its silent bare, very tranquil, very quiet and bare, very open. Bare here means naked. So what does this imply? It implies that it was very open. Everything could be seen, everything was so clear. So what was clear? Ships could be seen from there. Towers could be seen, tall towers could be seen from there. Domes could be seen from there. Theaters and temples lie. So everything could be seen from the bridge. It was so clear, so open and so calm, so that everything was so clear, so pristine. Ships, towers, domes, theaters and temples lie open onto the fields and to the sky. Everything seemed to be so clear, the sky seemed to be so open, and everything was looking beautiful. All bright and glittering in the smokeless air. So here we can see that the whole scene seems to be more beautiful because the air was smokeless, unpolluted, very pristine. All bright and everything seemed to be shining. Everything seemed to be sparkling in the first rays of the sunlight. All bright and glittering in the smokeless air. Never did sun more beautifully steep. He looked at the rays of the sun and he felt that he had not seen the rays of the sun so beautiful. He had been to many places. He has in his earlier poem described about nature. But here he is telling us that he had never seen the sun more beautifully, falling on the city in its first splendor, valley, rock or hill. Even the sun used to shine in the valleys, in the rocks, on the hills. But compared to that, the sun, the experience that he had earlier, this experience seems to be more sublime. And he says that never did sun more beautiful. In fact, it's the most beautiful sunrise that he has ever witnessed. Okay? Never saw I, never felt a calm so deep. So the experience makes him very, very tranquil, makes him, It makes him feel so calm, all right? Never felt a calm so deep. The river glideth at his own sweet will. So under the bridge we can see the river which is gliding by means moving very slowly at his own sweet will. There seems to be no hurry at all. So which river is being mentioned here? The river Thames, which flows through London. Okay, the river glideth at his own sweet will. Seems to be no hurry at all. Okay, and gliding at his own sweet will. And he is so emotional. This makes the poet so emotional that he thanks God. Dear God, he thanks God for what? For the whole experience. Okay? Dear God, the very houses seem asleep. The city of London seems to be sleeping. Who is sleeping actually? All the people are asleep. Okay? There's not a soul to be seen. Everything seems to be very, very silent. Okay? The very houses seem asleep. And all that mighty heart. Which mighty heart? The heart that here is the city of London, which seems to be the heart of England. Okay? And all that mighty heart is lying still. In a few hours, then London would be waking up and there'd be hustle and bustle, there'd be noise, there'll be smoke. But right now, it is so calm, it is so tranquil. And he thanks God for the experience that he has at present. Okay, so that is what the poem is all about.